Time for watering wisdom. Let's start with lights. These 6 bulb recycled lights pulled out of an old school are really great. They're bright. I can keep them significantly higher off of the plants than many of you or many light systems are going to be able to accomplish. For most lighting systems, you're going to need them to be about 4 inches off the top of the plants, and you need to be able to lift them as the plants grow, or alternatively, stack some stuff under them and remove it as the plants grow. Because even an old fluorescent shop light like this one will burn the plants if it touches them, and you don't want that to happen. So, these lights would be quite expensive to replace. A very sensible solution is just the old 4 foot shop lights, either fluorescent bulbs or LEDs, and they work just fine. You don't need fancy red or blue or purple lights. They're designed for specific situations. Many of us have a variety of different plants growing at different stages. Just stick with a full spectrum white light, keep it 4 to 6 inches off of your plants, and be able to raise and lower the lights as needed. And you can light your plants really well, get strong, sturdy plants with not a lot of money. Same is true for fertilizer. Skip the tomato fertilizer and the super bloom fertilizer and all that. Get you some all purpose plant food and just use that. I'm dissolving the small end of this into a gallon of water, and I do have it labeled just to make sure that if my grandkids are around that they're not grabbing that and thinking it's some kind of a drink. I have 2 different kinds of water here because I have plants at 2 different stages. My peppers are up. They're growing really well. They're kind of on the large side, and they're going to need some fertilizer with this watering. The tomatoes, on the other hand, they are just starting to get their true leaves. They're in Miracle-Gro potting soil. They don't need fertilizer yet, so they're going to get plain rainwater. Now, with simplicity in mind, I see a lot of people talking about taking your trays out, putting water in the bottom, letting these sit for 15 minutes until they've absorbed the water. Honestly, in this dry climate, that's really not necessary. I'm just going to use a targeted watering system, kind of a small tip on the watering can, and I'm kind of trying to keep it away from the leaves, but I'm really not worrying that much. It's so dry in my house that I really don't have to worry about that. If you are having trouble with fungus or moss or things like that, then go ahead and do the bottom watering. But for most people, it's really not necessary. And tomatoes are really quite robust anyway. So, again, rainwater, you can use dehumidifier water. That dehydrator water is kind of hard to collect. Do not recommend. Now I've filled my watering can with the fertilizer water. And again, I'm just going to run back and forth like this. Those few drops in my dry climate, those are going to dry right up in no time. But again, every situation is different and you have to adapt to what your situation is. It's important to understand that one person's great advice is not necessarily going to work for you. And so part of this is experience. Now, when it comes to overwatering, these trays have some lines in them that will keep some drops of water away from the bottom. But if there's water sitting in here to a point where I could pour it away, then I do need to pour it away. And again, I can tell pretty easily which plants need water and which ones don't. Just by looking at the tops, these have changed color. They're kind of that gray color instead of the darker black. These here could all use a drink, especially since I'm going to turn the fan on. This set right here, they don't really need water. And at this point, we want to kind of let the top of that soil dry out. If we don't, we can invite fungus problems. And now with everything watered, the last thing I'm going to do is turn my fan on. I'm going to put it on medium. And it's set to oscillate across the entire table. And that's going to help produce stronger plants. North Dakota's a windy place. We got to prep these plants properly.